Today is March 29th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, we're going to be reading out of the Pioneers of AA, He Sold Himself Short, pages 258 through 260 of the Big Book. And out of the 12 and 12, we're going to continue our journey through Step 11 by reading page 98. So with all that, my friends, hope you're doing well this morning. Hey, life is good here. Got my giant cup of coffee, my Star Wars cup, and we have a brand new set of 24 hours that we've been given today. Once again, life is good. Let's get to the good stuff. All right, so out of the Big Book, yesterday we finished up Pioneer number 7's story, which was a great story because we got to see several pages and a lot of information about his life during the sober years, and how much better it was and how much he had gained in sobriety. So it was great to see a testimony that spent a lot of time talking about sobriety. And now we're journeying through the 8th pioneer here. And once again, this is He Sold Himself Short. But he found that there was a higher power that had more faith in him than he had in himself. Thus, AA was born in Chicago. So again, we're going to read pages 258 through 260. I grew up in a small town outside Akron, Ohio, where the life was typical of any average small town. I was very much interested in athletics, and because of this and parental influence, I didn't drink or smoke in either grade or high school. All of this changed when I went to college. I had to adapt new associations and associates, and it seemed to be the smart thing to drink and smoke. I confined drinking to weekends and drank normally in college and for several days thereafter. After I left school, I went to work in Akron, living at home with my parents. Home life was again a restraining influence. When I drank, I hid it from my folks out of respect for their feelings. This continued until I was 27. Then I started traveling, with the United States and Canada as my territory, and with so much freedom and with an unlimited expense account, I was soon drinking every night and kidding myself that it was all just part of the job. I know that 60% of the time I drank alone without benefit of customers. In 1930, I moved to Chicago. Shortly thereafter, aided by the Depression, I found that I had a great deal of spare time and that a little drink in the morning helped. By 1932, I was going on 2 or 3 day benders. That same year, my wife became fed up with my drinking around the house, and she called my dad in Akron to come and pick me up. She asked him to do something about me because she couldn't. She was thoroughly disgusted. This was the beginning of 5 years of bouncing back and forth between my home in Chicago and Akron to sober up. It was a period of binges coming closer and closer together and being longer durations. Once Dad come all the way to Florida to sober me up after a hotel manager called him and said that if he wanted to see me alive, he'd better get there fast. My wife could not understand why I would sober up for Dad but not for her. They went into a huddle, and Dad explained that he simply took my pants, shoes, and money away so that I could get no liquor and had to sober up. One time, my wife decided to try this too. After finding every bottle that I had hidden around the apartment, she took away my pants, my shoes, my money, and my keys, threw them under the bed in the back bedroom, and slip-locked our door. By 1 a.m., I was desperate. I found some wool stockings, some white flannels that had shrunk to my knees, and an old jacket. I jimmied the front door so that I could get back in and walked out. I was hit by an icy blast. It was February with snow and ice on the ground, and I had a 4-block walk to the nearest cab stand. But I made it. On my ride to the nearest bar, I sold the driver on how misunderstood I was by my wife, and what an unreasonable person she was. By the time we reached the bar, he was willing to buy me a quart with his own money. Then we got back to the apartment. He was willing to wait 2 or 3 days until I got my health back to be paid off for the liquor and fare. I was a good salesman. My wife could not understand the next morning why I was drunker than the night before when she had taken my bottles. After a particularly bad Christmas and New Year's holiday, Dad picked me up again early in January 1937 to go through the usual sobering up routine. This consisted of walking the floor 3 or 4 days and nights until I could take nourishment. This time, he had a suggestion to offer. He waited until I was completely sober, and on the day before I was going to head back for Chicago, he told me of a small group of men in Akron who apparently had the same problem that I had, but were doing something about it. He said that they were sober, happy, and had their self-respect back, as well as the respect of their neighbors. He mentioned 2 of them whom I'd known through the years and suggested that I talk with them. But I had my health back, and besides, I reasoned, they were much worse than I would ever be. Why, even a year ago, I had seen Howard, an ex-doctor, mooching a dime for a drink. I could not possibly be that bad. I at least would have asked for a quarter. So I told Dad that I would lick it out on my own, and that I would drink nothing for a month, and after that, only beer. Several months later, Dad was back in Chicago to pick me up again, but this time my attitude was entirely different. I could not wait to tell him that I wanted help, that if these men in Akron had anything, I wanted it and would do anything to get it. I was completely licked by alcohol. Alright, some interesting stuff here, guys. Definitely want to come back to this in a minute. Alright, so out of the 12 and 12, we are on step 11, which is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. So we had a paragraph here yesterday that really stood out to me. It says, "Those of us who have come to make regular use of prayer would no more do without it than we would refuse air, food, or sunshine. And for the same reason. When we refuse air, light, or food, the body suffers. And when we turn away from meditation and prayer, we likewise deprive our minds, our emotions, and our intuitions of vitally needed support. As the body can fail its purpose for lack of nourishment, so can the soul. All need the light of God's reality, the nourishment of His strength, and the atmosphere of His grace. To an amazing extent, the facts of AA life confirm this ageless truth." So we are going to build on that idea on page 98. There's a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. Now and then we may be granted a glimpse of that ultimate reality which is God's kingdom. And we will be comforted and assured that our own destiny in that realm will be secure for so long as we try, however faultingly, to find and do the will of our own Creator. As we have seen, self-searching is the means by which we bring new vision, action, and grace to bear upon the dark and negative side of our natures. It is a step in the development of that kind of humility that makes it possible for us to receive God's help. Yet, it is only a step. We will want to go further. We will want the good that is in us all, even in the worst of us, to flower and to grow. Most certainly, we shall need bracing air and an abundance of food. But first of all, we shall want sunlight. Nothing much can grow in the dark. Meditation is our step out into the sun. How then shall we meditate? The actual experience of meditation and prayer across the centuries is, of course, immense. The world's libraries and places of worship are a treasure trove for all seekers. It is hoped that every AA who has a religious connection which emphasizes meditation will return to the practice of that devotion as never before. Alright, so we will stop there today, guys. First of all, I love how it says here on 98, now and then we may be granted a glimpse of that ultimate reality, which is in God's kingdom. And we will be comforted and assured that our own destiny in that realm will be secure for so long as we try, however faultingly, to find and do the will of our own Creator. It's all on God's will instead of our own. I think I've shared it a few times before during my lunch, my serenity lunch, and I put that in quotes. I just go outside and I sit on these benches that kind of overlook this soccer field, and I just kind of be. You know, it's very much like when I was a kid, I would sit on the bench in Newton Creek in New Jersey and just kind of be. Sometimes I'm just thanking God for the life I have. And sometimes I'm not really thinking at all. And sometimes I'm really trying to listen to what God would have me do. And all throughout the day, I try to ask, your will be done, God, whatever it is. It gives me great comfort when I do this. And now I couldn't really imagine life without my serenity lunch, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure if you would count that as meditation, but that seems to work for me. And I think since we're all different human beings, and we all have our different processes and ways of thinking, meditation is going to look a little different for everybody. But again, I think the root of it is to seek God's will and to listen. Oftentimes I've come to God with my to-do list. Don't get me wrong, I do believe that the God of my understanding wants to know what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm hoping for. But I really try to make sure that I say in my prayers, but your will be done, Father, whatever it might be, and help me to accept that. And then going back to our friend real fast in the big book, my heart goes out to his family. His wife, she's trying to help him out. She's trying to do everything she can to get her husband sober. And, it seems to be the father that has to take away all his stuff, and including his wallet and everything, so he can't buy liquor. And our friend here is so manipulative that he walks out in the snow several blocks to get to a bar, to sweet talk the bartender into a drink, and then goes back home completely drunk. It's in the attempt of paying him back later. That just goes to show you how manipulative we can be sometimes with our alcohol, and self-centered, and it's not a good thing. And my heart goes out to his wife because she's trying everything she can to help, and she doesn't know how to help. However, the father does say that he's heard of this group in Akron that has remained sober. And it sounds like our final bout with this guy, he's finally willing to listen. At first he wasn't. He's like, no, I'm not as bad as they are. But then by our next paragraph, he's desperate enough that he goes, okay, I wanted it and would do anything to get it. I was completely licked by alcohol. It sounds like he is hitting step one here, and hitting it pretty hard. So that's all we have time for today, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or any other sect or denomination. I am just a friend in recovery, just thrilled to be here today. And I'm so grateful that you've chosen to join me in this lifeboat of recovery. So I hope you all have a great day today. Enjoy this set of 24 hours. And I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.